Have you ever wondered what remains of Sodom and Gomorrah, the infamous cities destroyed by fire and brimstone in the Bible? Their story is one of divine judgment. But what about the aftermath? Could we find any traces of these cities today? Or have they vanished completely into the sands of time? Today, we're diving deep into history, archaeology, and legend to uncover the fate of Sodom and Gomorrah. According to the book of Genesis, Sodom and Gomorrah were cities consumed by corruption, violence, and immorality. Their destruction was swift and devastating, a divine punishment that left nothing behind but smoldering ruins. For centuries, their story has fascinated theologians, historians, and explorers. But the question remains, where were these cities, and can we find evidence of them today? Let's uncover the truth, from ancient texts to modern archaeological discoveries. The biblical account. In Genesis 19, Sodom and Gomorrah are described as cities thriving in the fertile Jordan Valley. But their people were accused of committing acts so grievous that God decided to destroy them. Two angels warned Lot, Abraham's nephew, to flee the city with his family. As fire and sulfur rained down, the cities were obliterated, leaving behind a desolate wasteland. One of the most haunting details of the story is Lot's wife, who turned into a pillar of salt when she looked back at the destruction. A chilling reminder of the irreversible consequences of divine wrath. But how much of this story is historical fact, and how much is symbolic? Searching for Sodom and Gomorrah. For centuries, explorers and archaeologists have debated the location of these cities. Many point to the region near the Dead Sea, a hypersaline lake bordered by modern-day Israel, Jordan, and Palestine. The southern end of the Dead Sea, in particular, has drawn attention due to its barren, sulfur-laden terrain. In 1924, archaeologist William F. Albright suggested that the cities could be submerged beneath the Dead Sea itself. Later expeditions focused on nearby sites, such as Bab Edra and Nemera, which show evidence of sudden destruction around 2000 BC. Charred remains of structures, traces of ash, and layers of sulfur-rich soil hint at catastrophic events that match the biblical description. Modern-day discoveries. In recent decades, further excavations have brought us closer to understanding what happened. In 2005, archaeologists excavating Tal El Hammam, located in modern-day Jordan, found evidence of a city that suffered a sudden and violent end. Pottery shards fused by extreme heat, destruction layers, and a lack of reoccupation for centuries point to an event of unimaginable scale. Scientists hypothesize that a meteor or asteroid explosion in the atmosphere could have caused a massive shockwave, generating the intense heat and destruction described in the Bible. This theory aligns with a study published in 2021, which linked Tal El Hammam's destruction to a cosmic airburst around 1650 BC. What do these locations look like today? Today, the areas near the southern Dead Sea remain barren and inhospitable, much like the biblical description of a desolate wasteland. Salt formations rise dramatically from the landscape, with one particular pillar often identified by locals as Lot's wife. The region is rich in minerals but sparse in vegetation, creating an eerie, otherworldly atmosphere. Sites like Bab Edra and Nemera have become archaeological treasures, offering glimpses into life in the ancient Near East. Meanwhile, Tal El Hammam is a bustling site of research, drawing scholars and enthusiasts alike to piece together its mysterious past. Lessons and legacy. The story of Sodom and Gomorrah is more than just a tale of destruction. It's a cautionary narrative about morality, justice, and divine judgment. But it also reminds us of the fragility of human civilization and the power of natural forces. Modern-day findings allow us to appreciate the historical underpinnings of ancient texts, but they also raise profound questions. Were these cities truly destroyed by divine intervention? Or were they victims of natural disasters interpreted through a religious lens? So, what remains of Sodom and Gomorrah? While the exact locations and causes of their destruction remain debated, the evidence points to real events that inspire the biblical narrative. Today, the ruins and salt-streaked landscapes near the Dead Sea serve as a haunting reminder of their fate. What could a city possibly due to face complete annihilation from God himself. The destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah remains one of the most infamous acts of divine judgment recorded in the Bible. But what were the reasons behind this catastrophic event? Were they beyond redemption, or was this story meant to teach humanity a profound lesson? In the book of Genesis, Sodom and Gomorrah are introduced as prosperous cities in the fertile plains of the Jordan Valley. Genesis 13, verse 10. However, their reputation among the people of the time was anything but good. Genesis 13, verse 13 states, "Now the people of Sodom were wicked and were sinning greatly against the Lord. Despite their wealth and resources, their actions set them on a path toward divine judgment." Let's dive into the reasons why these cities became symbols of moral decay. Reason 1. Widespread sin and wickedness. The primary reason for Sodom and Gomorrah's destruction was their extreme wickedness. Genesis 18, verse 20 describes the gravity of their sins. "Then the Lord said, 'The outcry against Sodom and Gomorrah is so great, and their sins so grievous.'" The Bible portrays their sins as encompassing a wide range of moral failures. These cities became synonymous with arrogance, inhospitality, sexual immorality, and violence. In Ezekiel 16, verses 49 to 50, God explicitly explains the sins of Sodom. "Now this was the sin of your sister Sodom. She and her daughters were arrogant, overfed, and unconcerned. They did not help the poor and needy. They were haughty and did detestable things before me. Therefore I did away with them, as you have seen. Their neglect of the vulnerable and indulgence in prideful, selfish lifestyles were key elements of their downfall." Reason 2. Sexual immorality and corruption. One of the most well-known accusations against Sodom and Gomorrah was their sexual immorality. In Genesis 19, 2 angels visit Lot in Sodom, and the men of the city demand to commit acts of violence against the visitors. Genesis 19, verse 5 describes their behavior. "They called to Lot, 'Where are the men who came to you tonight? Bring them out to us, so that we can have sex with them.'" The Apostle Jude later highlights this in Jude 1, verse 7. In a similar way, Sodom and Gomorrah and the surrounding towns gave themselves up to sexual immorality and perversion. They serve as an example of those who suffer the punishment of eternal fire. This passage underscores the severity of their actions and the consequences of living without moral restraint. Reason 3. Lack of righteous people. One of the most compelling aspects of this story is Abraham's intercession for Sodom. In Genesis 18, verses 23 to 33, Abraham pleads with God to spare the city if even a few righteous people can be found there. Abraham begins by asking if the city would be spared for 50 righteous people. God agrees, but reduces the number at Abraham's request. However, not even 10 righteous people could be found. This is revealed in Genesis 18, verse 32. "Then he said, 'May the Lord not be angry, but let me speak just once more. What if only 10 can be found there?' He answered, 'For the sake of 10, I will not destroy it.' The lack of righteousness among the people sealed the city's fate. Reason 4. A warning to future generations. The destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah also serves as a warning for future generations. 2 Peter 2, verse 6 emphasizes this. "If he condemned the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah by burning them to ashes, and made them an example of what is going to happen to the ungodly, their story is not just about judgment, but also about the consequences of ignoring God's standards and warnings." The destruction of the cities. In Genesis 19, verses 24 to 25, the destruction is described vividly. "Then the Lord rained down burning sulfur on Sodom and Gomorrah from the Lord out of the heavens. Thus he overthrew those cities and the entire plain, destroying all those living in the cities, and also the vegetation in the land." This moment was not just a physical annihilation, but a spiritual statement, a display of God's justice against unrepentant sin. The symbolism of Lot's wife. One of the most haunting elements of this story is Lot's wife, who looked back at the cities despite being warned not to. Genesis 19, verse 26 states, "But Lot's wife looked back, and she became a pillar of salt. Her fate serves as a symbol of attachment to sin and disobedience to God's commands. Lessons from Sodom and Gomorrah. Sodom and Gomorrah's story teaches us powerful lessons about morality, judgment, and God's mercy. Even in their wickedness, God showed mercy to Lot and his family, providing a way of escape. But it also reminds us of the consequences of turning away from righteousness. If you enjoyed this exploration of ancient mysteries, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel. And before you go, check out the video on your screen right now. It dives into another incredible biblical mystery you won't want to miss. Thank you for watching, and as always, stay curious.